Let's jump into the Writing into the Day Upper Elementary resource. The best way to explore the resource is to just walk through it as readers and writers or as learners. And then we'll put our teacher hat on at certain points in that process, and we'll think about possible adaptations and modifications for our students. We'll think about what level of support and scaffolding they would need from you. There's a lot of teacher choice about pacing and that type of thing. So we'll jump in. I'll share my screen. I'll pull this up. This is what the resource looks like. So this is what the students would get. You can either give this to them digitally or a piece of paper. And if it's a piece of paper, you know, they would just write in these boxes. And then and digitally, they would type in the boxes. Let me show you really quickly where this came from. Remember the Writing into the Day menu, and you have all these choices, these options, and I chose this one, the bottled water or tap water. And so that's the one we'll be exploring, bottled water, tap water. And this is the regular, like the rhythm and routine of the Writing into the Day resource. So just as an overview, we'll zoom out and look at it, take sort of a bird's eye view of it. This is 4 days. On day 1, students read this print text and they discuss it with a partner. They highlight the main claim. They put a star by the strongest piece of evidence, and then they write their own thoughts over here in the I say box. So they say, what does the writer say? The author of the text say, what do I say? The next day, they do the very same thing with another article that layers on a different nuance, a different perspective. And then on day 3, they watch the video and do the same thing. What's the main claim that we see here? What's the most compelling piece or strongest piece of evidence? And write it here. And then on day 4, write your argument. You make your claim, write an argument, and incorporate some of the source materials in your argument. Remember, Writing into the Day, very low stakes. It gives students just some routine practice entering a conversation. It gives them some more practice reading an informational text, and there are RI standards that deal with writer's main claim and evidence that supports the claim. So this is a beautiful fit with your reading standards. So let's jump right in. And I have here, let me stop the share and pull up the text. So I like to give students a paper copy of the text, but that's your choice. Remember, at certain points, you'll put your teacher hat on and you'll think that through. And here's the first text. So teachers have a lot of choices to make here. How much of it do you read to students? Do you just give it to them and tell them to read it? Do you put them in pairs and let them partner read? One read a paragraph, the other read a paragraph. There are multiple ways to approach this. I like to have my students first survey the text and to get the lay of the land. And so I would have them scroll through and I would point out, oh, we have a title here. We have an author, Lauren Tarshis. And the title, is bottled water really better? Are we wasting our money and ruining the environment? So there's a question here. I'm assuming that she will attempt to give some answers to those questions. Sometimes I read the overview part here aloud, so I'll do that. Every year, Americans buy around 30 billion bottles of water. Stack those up, and the plastic tower would stretch from Earth to the moon 13 times. Why do we love our bottled water so much? For one thing, it's convenient. Grab a bottle and go, then toss it out when you're done. It's healthy too, compared with sugary sodas. and it's safer and better tasting than tap water, or is it? So she ends with a question. She's got a couple of questions here. Why do we love it so much? Well, we love it because it's convenient. We can grab it and go, toss it out when we're done, and it's healthy compared with sugary sodas. Safer and better tasting, or is it? And then let's keep surveying the text. So we have a section here that is the truth about tap. Tap is the water that comes when we turn on our faucet or turn on the tap. That's the water that comes out of the faucet. And so she's going to tell us the truth about that. And then she's going to talk about the plastic problem and then dirty water. Okay, and then here's a little more about her and where the article was originally published. So I might read one more section just to get the students started. In fact, between 25 and 40% of all bottled water is tap water. Wow, I didn't know that. So a lot of the water that is in the bottled water that you buy is tap water. It came from the tap. Many top-selling brands, such as Dasani and Aquafina, sell tap water that has been run through a filter. But even waters bottled from springs and streams aren't necessarily better than the water you can get from your kitchen sink. In taste tests, tap water often beats them. Plus, it's likely that the water flowing from your tap has been more thoroughly tested than what you were guzzling from a bottle. That's because most cities are required to regularly test tap water to make sure it doesn't contain dangerous germs or chemicals. Bottled water companies don't have to test as rigorously. So this is what I learned from this. A lot of the bottled water that I buy is really just tap water. They put tap water in it. And then some companies will run that tap water through a filter, but it's not necessarily better than the kitchen sink. Tap water sometimes is healthier because cities have to test it regularly. And then bottled water companies don't have to test that much, so they're not required to do that. So at this point, I would probably release it to the students. I might say in pairs, one of you read one section and the other read the next, and then talk. Go back to your they say, I say screen, your note-taking sheet, and highlight the main claim, put a star by the strongest piece of evidence, and then decide your thoughts. Like, what do you say about what you just read? So stop the video, take a few minutes to, if you're doing this with a group of teachers, then pair up, read it, decide on the main claim and the strongest piece of evidence, and then individually you'll write or type in your I say box your thoughts about what you learned. So what do you say to what the writer said? And then turn the video back on and join me back here. Okay, so now I want to model. I always want to model for my students also. And so here's what I learned from Lauren Tarshis, that I thought that her main claim was that tap is fine for most people. You know, she went on to say that a lot of people don't have access to clean water. A lot of people, when they turn their tap on, and she named like millions, there are like millions of people who don't have clean, city regulated and tested water coming out of their tap. And so if you don't, then you really don't have a choice. You need to drink bottled water, even though plastic is filling landfills and that's an issue. She seemed to be saying that, yes, that is a problem for the environment, but people need to drink good water, so we'll take that trade-off. But she said, and I really think her main claim was, if you have if your tap water is clean and regulated, drink it. It's better, it saves you money and saves the environment. And her strongest piece of evidence to me was that cities regulate their water more closely than bottled water companies. And so I would say things like, while bottled water is convenient, tap water is better for the environment. Let me say it's cheaper. I want to add that in. It's cheaper and better for the environment than bottled water. I'd add a little more evidence. Plastic is filling up landfills and is dangerous for the environment. You know, you just want your students, and you can decide as a teacher, first of all, this is just what you're saying back to, or what you're saying in response to the writer. So, you know, you may want to say 3 to 5 things to the writer. It's up to you. That's your choice as the teacher. So at this point, that's the end of day 1. Students have read, they've discussed, they've highlighted the author's main claim, and they've put a star by the strongest piece of evidence, and they've written their own thoughts in the I say box. So I'll meet you back here in the next video to work through day 2.